And hey, everybody, it is 7 o'clock Wednesday night. Time for Sci-Fi Distilled. Hello, Mary Beth. Welcome back. And we're back
Hello,
from a short
welcome
little
back.
break.
The road show is over.
The
Welcome
road
back.
show's over. I'm home again. Home again. Jiggity jig. So, hey, like the shadow is here. And Doc, how are you? Thanks for joining.
Hi, guys.
And anybody else that's online, of course. So this week we are doing, it's the last day of April. So we're going to do our top 10 Star Trek.
Top 10 time.
And it is top 10 TOS and animated series, technically. Top characters or guest characters, not necessarily the actors, but the characters themselves. So, but before we get into that, we have some news.
I got news. I want to fly through it, but Rizzo, I do want to hear your thoughts on some of these new items. Tremors.
Yes.
Some of you may have seen, though, a Rumbledore. It's a Facebook page called Rumbledore. It occasionally posts satire, and sometimes it posts inaccurate information about new movies and shows. Recently, they posted a reboot of the Tremors franchise coming to Netflix in August, starring Kevin Bacon. It will be an 8-episode series set in Perfection, Nevada. That is not exactly what is happening. Let me tell you what's actually going on. Stampede Entertainment, the original creative team behind Tremors, said in an April blog post that it had reclaimed the rights to the original script of the 1990 movie. So they're exploring potential projects. They would love to have new stories in Perfection. They would love to have new stories featuring Graboids. Of course, they'd love to work with Kevin Bacon again, but they are not yet at this time. The company clarified that it cannot license anything from the first movie because Universal still has those rights. So they do not have a deal with Netflix. They do not have 8 episodes coming. They haven't talked to Kevin Bacon yet. Sorry.
Fake news. Fake news.
All right, guys, let's move on from that because here I've got a lot of news that I want to talk to Rizzo about. As you guys all know, tomorrow's May 1st. May the 4th is this Sunday. Star Wars Celebration has already happened. It was April 18, 19, and 20. It was in Japan. And here's everything we learned. We know Star Wars Visions is going to get Volume 3 on October 29. Yay, that's great. Star Wars Celebration saw the announcement of Star Wars Maul Shadow Lord, which is a new animated series coming to Disney Plus. It will follow Sam Witwer's Darth Maul. I love Sam Witwer. It will follow Sam Witwer's Darth Maul after the events of the final season of Clone Wars. If it's like Clone Wars, I want to check it out. We got a couple of the tidbits for the games. They're going to update Smuggler's Run and other stuff, but here was the really juicy bits that came. Ahsoka Season 2 had a panel that showed the first look at Rory McCann, who has taken over the role of Baylan Skoll. You guys, of course, remember that the role was originated by Ray Stevenson, and he tragically passed. Rory, if you're thinking, boy, that name sounds familiar, where do I know Rory McCann? He played the Hound in Game of Thrones. I think this is an excellent casting choice, and I think he's going to do well, and I'm really excited to see it. Ahsoka also dropped a Season 2 trailer, and then Hayden Christensen showed up, crashed the panel, and announced he will also be appearing in Season 2. Also, there was a lot of Thrawn in that trailer. What do you think about that before I go on, Rizzo?
Well, I haven't seen the trailer for Ahsoka Season 2. I was disappointed with the first season, and not so much. I think it just, what was disappointing, I think it just needed to be tightened up. I think there was like drag too much. Star Wars is about kind of usually about action. You don't get a lot of slow scenes in Star Wars, and I think they just, I don't know, somewhere they dropped the ball on that one. It wasn't bad. It wasn't
Acolyte bad though.
No, it was not nowhere near Acolyte. It was fairly stayed within. It stayed within universe. I think they stayed along with the storyline of Ahsoka. I think for the most part, at least in my opinion, the actor they got for Thrawn was disappointing. Nothing against him personally. I just don't think he fit what Timothy Zahn envisioned
for Thrawn, yeah.
But I know he was the guy that did the voice on the animated when he was in Rebels, so I believe that was the case. So I think they like to try to put those actors, just like Katie Sackhoff, was Bo-Katan.
Yes, Katie did.
She fit that perfect. She was Bo-Katan.
She did.
I mean, you know what I'm
she
saying?
Did a great job.
Yeah. So I mean,
so there's some stuff that was worthwhile. But it wasn't like Acolyte bad. But then here's the thing: is you just said it was kind of slow. But I remember when Andor first came out, I was like, man, this is slow. And then I realized, no, wait, this is just Star Wars.
Andor is much darker.
Andor is a lot darker.
And I think it's and the reason that's why I like Andor, because I always call it the grown-up Star Wars, because I think it's showing, like, as we saw in A New Hope, and is the rebel. There was always the good and the bad. It was very clear cut, and there's
yeah.
But we had to know that it was never always like that, or it was there's always the stuff that in a rebellion you would have to do that you wouldn't necessarily think is very honorable, or what I'm saying. But to get you're in a life or death struggle, so you're going to do things that maybe you were really proud of. Let's put it that way.
Yeah, that's true.
So, and I think that's what they're showing with Andor, that it's just not, they're the good guys, but sometimes they got to do bad things.
They got to get their, they got to get their. Yeah. All right, I've got Mando news and Andor news. So let me finish this up. The Mando and Grogu trailer dropped. We are still expecting that movie on May 2022 of 2026. Oddly enough, the Mando and Grogu panel also included, or kind of attached to it, was the reveal of the Sean Levy directed Star Wars Starfighter movie. It will star Ryan Gosling. It's expected in 2027. Both Ryan and Sean showed up, and Ryan felt okay admitting to the crowd that his mom still has his Empire Strikes Back sheets or pajamas or whatever from when he was a kid. Side note on that Mando and Grogu trailer, it included a lot of Sigourney Weaver, and she was very well received by the crowd in attendance. Does that give me hope? Yes, I think she'll do great in whatever role they've given her. But I also have to remember that the crowd in attendance wants to be there, and they're going to eat up every single thing. They're going to eat up anything. Even if it was bad, they're going to eat it up. But I'm kind of excited to see Sigourney in the Star Wars universe.
Okay. Yeah, I saw that. I'm okay with Sigourney being in there. No issue there. She's a great actress. And of course, she's certainly a legacy sci-fi.
She is.
So I think I'm sure they're dropping her in there for name recognition, but we'll see. I mean, it's just not like it was a good choice, I think, overall. I don't think it was just done for name recognition either.
Yeah, I think so too.
Unlike they did with Carrie Ann Moss, where they stuck her in for 10 minutes and then they advertised the crap. Right? If they kill off Sigourney in the first 10 minutes,
I will be pissed. I will be mad because they did Carrie Ann dirty with that. All right, last piece of news.
Everybody dirty with that.
They did all of us dirty with that. Last piece of news. There was an Andor panel. Alan Tudyk showed up to discuss. He will be back as K2SO. That show has since kicked off. Rizzo and I were talking about it before the show started. We won't spoil it for anybody. I think it's pretty good so far. Interestingly enough, they are going to replace Jimmy Smith. So Jimmy Smith was playing Bail Organa. They're going to replace him with Benjamin Bratt, which I'm okay with. Solid choice. I think that should be okay. I don't know. I really did like Jimmy
Smith. They need a younger version of Bail? Is that what they're...
I don't know. Jimmy just had, I think, scheduling conflicts. He has some other project he's working on. I think he wanted to do it, but they just couldn't make it work.
Well, I'm wondering, though, because this is supposed to be much earlier. Well,
I don't know. I actually don't know their ages. Is Benjamin that much younger than Jimmy?
When was Rogue One? Was 2016? 2015? 2016.
Yeah. So, let me look it up.
2016, I'm pretty sure. I'm 99% sure.
Rogue One is what you're asking about?
Rogue 2016. One. Yeah, so 10 years ago, not even 9. Yeah, I mean, maybe I can't think why they wouldn't use them unless. Here's the thing. It just seems really lame that I have another commitment, and you had this major role, and it's like
Jimmy Smith is 69.
Yeah, I wonder if he just looks too old.
I don't know. Let me see.
Remember, this is supposed to take place earlier, so he can't look
old.
Slash
Film has a clickbait title. Slash Film says the real reason Benjamin Bratt replaced Jimmy Smith. Let me read it. Find out why. It's all clickbait.
Well, anyway, we can report back on that one. We don't have to necessarily.
Yeah, we don't have to. All right, let's do our top 10 list because we need all the time that we need for this thing.
Was that the end of the news?
That was the end. Oh, what are we drinking tonight while we're talking top 10
tonight?
Star Wars?
You might like this one. It's called a hairy mudslide, which just kind of sounds gross. If you don't know it's hairy mud. slide.
It should have been.
So you got
Okay, never mind.
Rika vodka, which is a brand, so I'm sure any vodka will do. Coffee liqueur, Irish cream liqueur, and just regular cream. And then, yeah, shake that and pour it.
That actually sounds delicious.
It actually probably
I
would
will take
pretty
anything
good.
with cream in it.
Anything with cream.
All right.
I'm usually not a big cream
Here we
in
go, guys.
alcohol. So
Cream and alcohol.
all right. So we're gonna do our usual start with 10. We'll go to 2 honorable mentions, number 1. So again, these are characters not necessarily based on, we're not talking about the actor or actresses that played the part. We're talking about the actual character and how they were written.
Character.
So
The character.
all right.
And
so
as usual, I had my list. Rizzo had his list, and we compiled. Here we go.
Compiled, yeah. And this is what we came up with. This is by no means definitive. It's just our opinion. You can have a different opinion. So
you can't have.
All right. So number 1, we have Marlena Moreau, played by our good friend Barbara Luna. And this is the mirror version, mirror universe version of.
I agree with that.
Of her, not the one that we met at the very end of the episode. Of course, this is the episode from Mirror Mirror. And the reason I picked her, and I think you had her on her list too, if I'm on your list, she was kind of a very strong character, again, in a time when strong female characters usually aren't a thing. And I like the way that she was like, hey, I'm climbing the ladder here and I'm going to step on whoever I need to. and oh, by the way, I'm going to go over here and push this button and just make it disappear.
It was dog eat dog.
Yeah. So I love her. Of course, she's Barbara. We all love Barbara. She's coming up for Shatner, correct?
We will see Barbara in almost 2 short months.
So that was our choice. I think she played off well with Kirk. Apparently, when she did the scene where she comes after she changes and she's in that very William Tice, Bill Tice outfit with that he just pinned on her. Basically, poor thing had the flu. Apparently pretty bad.
Yes,
she was
I've heard that she wasn't
well. You would never know. Of course, that's the actress, not the character. But I just felt the character was kind of well written, and I just like the strength and her determination. Let's put it that way.
I completely agree. I completely agree with you. The character, all the women in Mirror Mirror were well written, because I remember Nichelle had some great things to do in that episode as well. So yes, great choice. Bill Sotak is saying that she'd vaporize you. She would use the Tantalus field device.
Tantalus field, yes. We don't want to go.
She didn't make the list. She would have just pushed the button and we would have been gone.
She would push the button and everybody on the list until she made the list. So that's why
until she was the list.
That's why I put her on the list, because I didn't want to get this. So all right. Are we up now? We are late. My notes went to sleep here. Hold on a second.
Oh, wake your notes back up.
Wake the notes back up. Okay. The next one is our good friend Cyrano Jones from one of our favorite episodes, Trouble with Tribbles. I love the way this character is written, because he's just a goof. He's the comic. Well, the whole episode is comic relief, but he really, I think, brings it home.
Go ahead.
No, I mean, the actor, of course, does it very well, where he's just kind of this bubbly, carefree kind of guy, and transporting harmful animals against regulation, and nobody would think a little Tribble is harmless. Just incredibly prolific.
Can you imagine him with Harry Mudd? Like, those two would be getting into so much. Well, see,
I think Cyrano really wasn't a bad guy. Like, he was maybe bending the rules a little bit to make money, whereas Mudd was actively trying to, he was literally willing to kill people, even in the original series. That version of Mudd, as opposed to the one in Discovery.
Yeah,
he was kind of a bad guy. He ended up being a bit of a comic relief, certain in I, Mudd. But, he was going to take over the Enterprise and abandon everybody on that planet. And then, he was literally going to let the Enterprise crash from the Dilithiums if, he didn't get his way with the So I don't think Cyrano was like that. I think he was just kind of a businessman trying
to push the envelopes.
I don't think he necessarily, like he said, he's never done he's never broken any law, at least not seriously, to quote Spock.
At least not that he was aware. Yeah. He did appear in both the live action and the animated series.
He was in the animated series, and here he is. as the animated version of Cyrano. Yeah, there was another episode. Of course, he's the one that kind of I guess the Klingons invented the Glommers to get rid of the Tribbles.
Yeah.
But he definitely used them to clean up K7 faster, because they mentioned in the animated series, how the heck did you? Why are you should still be on K7 picking up Tribbles.
Yeah, they did. They did say that, didn't they? Yeah. That's true. That's true. Yeah, no, great choice. He was a very funny character in a very, I was gonna say, very funny episode. In one of the lighter episodes that has a lot of great moments in it, and he was in a lot of. He brought it, and it's a great.
His interactions with him and the bartender in Trouble,
and him and Charlie Brill.
Wait, a little bit, but I mean, him and the bartender had the best.
That's what
the bartender had the best kind of banter back and forth.
Because the bartender was like the straight man, and he was very dour, and
So anyway, so that's our number 9. The next one I have, and this was I always thought maybe I should have put this one higher on the list, but this is Mark Lenard as the Romulan commander from Balance of Terror.
Mark.
This is really the first time we saw Mark Lenard in Star Trek. Of course, he returned as Sarek, Spock's father.
Yeah, and in fairness, on my list, you guys, I had Jane Wyatt. I had Amanda and Sarek as a twofer. Rizzo didn't agree with my choice, but I'm so delighted that you got Mark Lenard on the list.
They're fine. I mean, I don't know why I didn't really go with that. I liked him as this character better. I love this character because you could see he's very intelligent, and he's doing his duty, and he knows it's wrong what he's doing.
Yes.
Like, he knows this is only going to end badly for the Empire. Even if we win, millions of people are going to die on both sides, or thousands or whatever. Yes. So, he knows this, and he's probably on Kirk's level of intelligence as far as command ability and tactics and whatnot. So, I mean, and they kind of, even says, and perhaps in another reality, I could have called you friend, because they realized they were kind of birds of a feather. They were very alike. And I think that's what it was. This was kind of a mirror of Kirk. Again, I don't know. I always thought that was kind of a metaphor when they say, this is a reflection returns, as the Enterprise paces them. It's just a sense of reflection, but did it mean more? Were they really writing in more that Kirk and the Romulan commander were reflections of each other?
Well, yeah. Rizzo, remind me, the Balance of Terror is the episode that was loosely based on a submarine.
Right. It was on the not Silent Run Deep. It was on
I don't remember which one either.
I believe is the name of the movie.
But the character, and Mark does this so well, the character does have that intellect. Like when we would have Cold War stories where the American and the Russian, or the Soviet were calculating each other, and like it was kind of cat and mouse, and they did this so well, and Mark brought that to this character so well.
This is also one of my favorite episodes of Star Trek, period.
Oh, it's one of the better episodes, I think. I think it was on when we did our top 10 list.
It definitely was. It was brilliant, even though there were some things that didn't really jive, the whole making sound, where we know sound does not travel through the vacuum of space.
That's okay.
So that came directly from the submarine movies, because sound does travel very well through water. So but beyond that, it would be close enough to smell them.
But he's realizing, I was gonna say, the humanity. I don't know if you call Romulans human, but he realizes he has his orders and he has a professional job to perform, but he also realizes the humanity at stake.
Yeah, no, he realizes he's like he said, I'm almost hoping we don't return.
Yeah,
because he realized that, because it means a new war that they want, because that's what the Romulans just want to go to war. They don't, but they're testing the waters. So, I mean, he just plays this brilliantly. I think he plays this better than he does Sarek. I love Sarek. Don't get me wrong.
Really?
I just think he plays this part, to me, is one of his crown jewels. And for me,
really, I like
Sarek. I love
Sarek. I love his Sarek.
I think Sarek the problem I had with Sarek and
It
Journey
just
to
wasn't
Babel
well
was
balanced.
he was very un-Vulcan, or maybe he was, or we were seeing a side of Vulcans that, you know, he was being petty. Yeah, well, I don't want to talk to my son because he didn't join the Vulcan Science Academy.
Oh, in Journey to Babel?
Yeah, so that was where the first time we saw him. So really the only time we saw him in the original series. He never did return, obviously. Because we didn't even see him in Amok Time, which I thought was interesting. They didn't, or was Amok Time before Journey to Babel?
No, I believe it was after. Well, you know what? I could look it up for you.
Anyway, it doesn't matter. Point is, yeah, I think Amanda's character was a good character. I think she well,
they really showcased her a lot. She had a lot more to do. All he had to do was get sick and lay in the bed for a while. Remember, is because Journey to Babel is when Spock gives him the transfusion,
right?
The green blood transfusion, and the two of them are laying there in the bed, and McCoy gets the last word, and he's all happy about it.
Yeah. Because Kirk's laying there too. Which is, by the way, one of the only, the second or the only one of two times I think we see 3 beds in the ward.
Yes, that's true. That's true.
What was the other episode?
Dr. Alexander says it was Enemy Below. Was it Enemy Below? Maybe it was.
Yes, I said that.
Oh, sorry.
Yeah. So anyway, all right. So that was number 8.
Yeah, Doc, we are seeing your comments if that's what you're asking about. So you're good.
Yeah. He's on the YouTube. We can see.
He is on the YouTube.
So Romulan Commander, he didn't have a name, so unfortunately we didn't get his name.
No, he didn't. They never named the Romulan commanders.
Nope, they're just Romulan commanders. All right, number 7. Good old Trelane from the Squire of Gothard. I personally like this character because he's just so flamboyant. I don't know. He's kind of like Liberace. He's just a fun character, and yet there's this evil undertone to him until we find out at the end that he's actually just a child. But you know what I'm saying? He's kind of oh, I'm happy, you know, and have some drinks and everything, and then don't test me. You know, kind of an attitude.
Which is fairly immature. I mean, that's in keeping with a child, I guess.
Well, right, and that's what Kirk, I think, eventually kind of zones in on that he's like, all right, come on, and then he pushes him, and when he gets really pushed, he backs down, basically, you know, like, you're not playing the game right, you know. And I think any of us that were kids, you know, had a friend maybe like that kind of got mad if you weren't playing the game.
Yeah, a little bit pouty, a little bit stampy footy.
Yeah. So Doc's asking Trelane is a cute. Well, that's kind of been a long-standing since TNG came out, was Trelane a Q. Sure. I mean, I think there's been books, basically novelizations, basically saying that for a fact. Of course, they aren't canon, but I think we could pretty assume if he's not a Q, they're certainly Q adjacent. We'll say.
That's a good way to put it.
If they're not the exact same. Of course, we realize there are very non-corporeal species that have already, remember the on the one planet there in Errand of Mercy.
Oh,
they were non-corporeal as well, and we assume they could obviously create a planet to look the way Kirk wanted it to look or expected it to look. So we know there's more than just them. And then the Metrones are the same thing. From
that's true.
From Marina. So we know that there are a lot of non-corporeal higher beings in the universe. So Q, possibly. Sure, why not?
I am
Charlie X, there's another one.
Yeah, that's true. I am Charlie. Yeah, I'm
well,
a little
whatever they were, what was that one from? That was Charlie X. They were I can't think of this. Somebody remember the name of the alien.
I don't remember what Charlie X was.
The alien, well, he was a human, but the aliens that gave him his power were also
they had a name,
non-corporeal, and I can't. They did have a name because it was the planet he was on. Anyway, so yeah, Trelane. I mean, agreed.
Yeah. So, but I'm curious to know what I just heard you talk about him, but what is it that? So when you think Star Trek, you think of this particular episode?
Not actually. As a kid, I didn't really care for this episode that much.
That's exactly what I was about to say. I was like, this was never one of my favorites.
It wasn't, but I liked the character.
You liked the character.
I liked the way the character, I liked the way he was written. I liked the way William Campbell played the part. And I just found it's actually grown on me, like, as a kid. But as a kid, I liked most of the bottle episodes. I was always like, so it was Balance
Yeah.
of Terror, Corbomite Maneuver,
Yes. Yes.
Tribbles, Doomsday Machine. Those are the ones that, as a kid, that I always liked the best. Any of the ones that were more philosophical or just slower, the Empath, kill me. Children's Cell League, kill me.
Yeah, the Empath was rough.
You
and
know,
Jen
those are the ones I went, oh, this one, oh, not this one.
Yeah.
So this was one of the ones that I was really not a fan of, but I like this character.
Interesting. Yeah, this was never. I agree. It was never
Maybe
one
he's
of my
higher on the
favorites.
list than he should have been. I might give
But
it that.
the trope, I will give him this: the trope of, oh, look, it's a new life form and it's all capricious. Oh, it's just a kid. That gets used a couple times. Like, I feel like we see that again in Star Trek, and then we've seen it in other sci-fi and other places too. So that is interesting.
Yeah, see, Doc, Thasians was the Charlie X alien.
Was it Thasians?
Thasus was the planet.
Thasus.
Yeah.
I have a memory like a sieve. I have to look when we do these episodes, guys. I have to look all this stuff up again because I'm like
POS I got for the most part, although that one I did forget. Charlie X is, again, not one of my more favorite episodes. I'm not a big fan of Charlie X. I don't know why.
He was a mean. Charlie was mean.
As a kid, as a very young kid, it was a scary episode. I always thought it was kind of scary when the girl came out and she had no face and stuff like that. That one.
And it kind of reminds me, was it Billy Mooney who did the Twilight Zone episode where he would just, and they'd be like, no, it's okay.
Was that the same kid or no? That was not Opie Cunningham.
No, it was a different kid. It was like maybe Billy Mooney or maybe.
No, I think it was. I thought in that one it
was. Or
young. I thought it was Opie Cunningham there.
Opie, yeah, I was gonna say Opie.
Yeah. What's his name?
It was one of them.
I thought it was Ron Howard in that one. I think. I could be wrong. Oh no, Chris saying it was Bill Mummy.
Chris thinks it was Bill. All right.
The Bill Mummy, as opposed to a Bill Mummy.
You guys remember which episode I'm talking about? That kid was kind of cool, but Charlie X was meaner. Like Charlie X, you saw what he was doing, and you were like,
yeah. Now that you mention, I'm thinking of the episode. They're right. It's Billy Mummy. Mummy.
I think it's Moomy. I'm not really
sure. I think it's Moomy. So, all right, moving on. We done with
moving on from Moomy.
All right, is another one that wasn't on yours, and that is Flint from Requiem for Methuselah.
Yes, again, another interesting choice. Tell me about Flint.
Why I like Flint is because, and here I would have liked. I think they did Flint wrong, or at least I know the episode wasn't about him per se. It was about the whole relationship between him and what's her name.
Yeah.
But here we had a guy who has lived, he was basically born around the Roman Empire era and has lived until the 23rd century.
Right.
And was Brahms, was Da Vinci, was all these things. And I felt like this is a massively interesting character where, you know what I'm saying? You would think Spock would have been like, once he figured out who he was, like, okay, we're going to sit down and we're going to record Earth's history from,
that's interesting.
But I mean, he could figure how fascinating this guy must have been to, that he was
walking encyclopedia.
But he was all these famous people in history.
But he didn't have power. Did he have power? Was he Gary Lockwood?
No,
Gary Mitchell.
Was
Gary Mitchell before Gary Mitchell was Gary Mitchell?
No. He doesn't have any. They never alluded to.
He has no power. Okay.
He has no power other than the fact that he's immortal if he stays on Earth. Apparently, which he is aware of, that he realized that once he left Earth and its complex, whatever, gravity or whatever that created him, he lost his immortality. He is amazingly intelligent and smart because of all his centuries of knowledge that he has gained. Plus, he must obviously be somewhat talented on his own to be Da Vinci in a time of Da Vinci and to be, what I'm saying? It's not like he's Da Vinci because he came back in time and he, you know what I'm saying? Like we could be Da Vinci because we know all this.
Yeah, because if we went back in time, knowing what we know now,
like this and super intelligent person. But he was that intelligent during those eras.
Yeah, he did it as it came along.
He obviously was extremely intelligent and immortal. I just felt I think I put him in there because I think he would have been a fascinating character had they not killed him off Well, he didn't really die, but he knew he was going to die. And they could have, he would have been a great animated series maybe character to, I don't know. He really wasn't a villain.
He died. He definitely died. Yeah, he died.
Well, he's going to, because they said you realize you're dying, and he's like, yeah, I know.
Yes. Okay.
He knew he lost his immortality when he left Earth.
Yeah, Rizzo, you are absolutely right. He would have been a fascinating character. Like, I would have liked to come back and visit. Like, you know what? You know who could have visited him? Lower Decks.
I mean, there's a million possibilities they could have had for him. He would
have been fun on Next Gen. I mean, yeah.
Yeah, of course, you couldn't bring the actor back because I think he would have been way too old.
Yeah, that part's true.
Okay, so that's pretty much, Flint. Again, I was trying to pull out some more less obvious choices.
I went for all the
There's a lot of good ones. There's a lot of good ones. I mean,
there are a lot of good ones.
Yeah, he shrunk the Enterprise, but he did that with
well, so did
technology, though. It was technology. He was definitely technical.
Yeah, he was a techno. Yeah,
but I don't think he didn't have any like powers.
Yeah, so, yeah.
Not that I was aware of. Anyway, okay. Next one, we are up to number 5, and it is Norman. Norman, coordinate.
Norman,
so you're going to say, why the hell did you pick Norman?
Yeah, why the hell did you pick Norman?
Norman is a master. Think about this. This is why, and I stole this from the Treksperts if you've heard their episode. So, but it struck me so on the point that I had to use it. Norman was on the Enterprise for months, and nobody picked it up that he was an android. He must have gone through some kind of medical training, and the only thing he shows him is, oh yeah, I'm an android. See, I got this flap right here and all these electronic stuff. McCoy didn't pick it up. Spock didn't pick it up. Nobody picked it up that he was an android the whole time.
That is an excellent point that I had never thought of before.
He is the man.
Yeah, you know what? I am going to give it to Norman. He is the man pulling that off.
So that, and of course, the poor guy, I felt bad for him because he's trying to be logical, and they're
he was the only one that there was one of, right?
There's only one Norman. Right. Yeah. He was. That's why it's Norman coordinate. It was like Norman coordinate. And coordinate. I'm lying. Everything I say is a lie. I'm lying. But if you say you're lying, and the smoke comes out of his head.
But everything you say is a lie.
That's why I picked Norman. I have number 5. I thought he was a good character, and I thought he basically pulled one over on the entire Enterprise crew. So he gets number 5. For that one reason, he was number 5.
He had a medical scanner jammer. Yes, scanner jammer.
Something. I don't care how he did it. The fact is, he did
it. He made all the readings look like completely nortle. They never knew.
I mean, he's the man. Now, we're taking androids. Now, is he? Some of the argument is he like or the whole planet kind of a offshoot of the planet from what little girls are made of? They were more advanced, but we could think that maybe that race went out into the universe and that these were just another version of the same androids.
That's an interesting thought. I have to give Harry Mudd credit because whoever invented these androids, because these were excellent. I mean, this was like almost like Data, Lieutenant Commander Data level.
Yeah, I mean, same thing with what little girls are made of.
He fulfilled his function on the Enterprise when he was undercover on the Enterprise. Yeah, that these were good androids. These were well-made androids.
It was interesting, though. One would argue in the iMugs episode, why would you send the one guy who they need to coordinate?
He was Norman.
Well, why didn't they make another one that could go off and be on the Enterprise as opposed to, because if he was on the Enterprise, who was controlling all the, whatever the other.
Harry Mudd was doing that by himself. Sure.
Into this series, into that series.
Maybe one of the Stellas. They got one of the Stellas to handle it.
Harcourt Fenton Mudd.
Harcourt.
Have you been drinking?
Where have you been down at the pub again?
All right, number 4.
Norman.
Our good friend Decker. Yes. Matt Decker.
Yes, this was on my list too. Good choice.
This is another great character because we see how we have somebody who is probably a very good commander.
Yes. Hopefully.
lose his mind.
Yes.
And basically through, think about what happened to him. I mean, he encounters this thing that is destroying his ship.
The ship.
And he probably does what by the book, and probably by the book it says, look, if this is the situation, get your crew to a safe place. Now, who would have ever thought that if you beam them down to a planet, that the thing would destroy the planet,
kill the planet? Yeah.
and the thing wasn't killing the planet because the crew was there. It just does what it
Kill
does,
the planet.
and it's fuel. That's
and that
what
was the thing, and that's the face he made when he watched this thing kill the planet with his crew on it.
Yeah, and they said there is no
Look
fourth
at
planet.
him.
There was, but not anymore.
Yeah, you know what? I'm so glad. This was on my
that's
list
the best
too.
line. I mean, they say there's no devil, Jim, but I've seen it straight out of hell.
And he was unhinged, but he had every right to be unhinged.
Oh yeah, but he also had no right to be in command anymore at that point.
Well, no, at that point he should not have been in command. But that's, we need it for the story to happen. You know.
But he plays this so well, this character so well. And of course he eventually sacrifices himself in the end because he thinks that he has the right idea. He just, like you said, he just doesn't have enough power. Shuttlecraft wasn't enough to explode it. The joke, of course, is like, well, if you knew that, you probably had something that on board that you didn't really have to blow up the Constellation, because you could have just thrown the warp core in there.
You could have just pulled like a Jaws where you throw something in and then blow it.
I mean, the thing is, they said, well, we don't know how many more of those things running around. Well, now you know how to kill it easily. You just make a bomb big enough, the same explosive force as the warp core, you shove it down its throat. Kaboom.
Oh, wait. Doc says, well, first of all, there's some great, the comment section is doing great tonight. John Capes is observing that a lot of captains and commodores and admirals snap. Yes, that was a trope that got used a lot. Bill is saying the planet killer kills a planet. Who would have thought? Yeah. But Doc is saying that Decker knew planets had been destroyed in the system.
I don't think he necessarily did. I think he came.
Now I got to go back and watch the episode again.
I mean, one could argue that, but I think he came across the debris of the planets and not knowing what happened.
But didn't know that it was the planet killer that had did it.
Didn't necessarily know it was the planet killer. So
I need to rewatch the episode now because I think Doc is right. I think Decker knew.
Well, we don't know what he knew at that point. I'm assuming that I think if he knew that I don't think he would have beamed. Let's put it this way: I don't think he would have beamed the crew down to a planet. He knew the thing was about ready to carve up.
Maybe it wasn't heading toward the planet. I mean, see, we don't know. We don't know the whole thing.
Maybe not.
Maybe it was heading one way, and then when they beamed down, it turned.
I personally have to go with the fact that he didn't know for sure, or at least whatever, or he wouldn't have done it. That's
what? I'm not. When I go to bed tonight, guess what I'm going to watch?
You're going to watch that episode. By the way, is one of the most brilliant of all Star Trek.
Agree. This is a fantastic episode.
An amazing episode. There's a whole YouTube video out there just on the music and how that was one of the ones where like has its own score. Wasn't a lot of reused stuff. So anyway,
a lot of great moments, and we love Kirk. Kirk's over on the other ship, and he's like,
"Yep,
anytime, gentlemen.
Anytime, gentlemen. Maybe aboard.
Anytime, gentlemen."
It's a good one. Okay, that was number 4. So number 3.
We got
to move on.
3 already. Wow.
Yeah, we got a lot to go,
but we have honorable mentions to talk about.
Well, yeah. And that is good old Captain Kor from the Klingon Empire. This is, of course, from Errand of Mercy. This is, of course, played by John Kalikas, who also played Boltar in the original 78 Battlestar Galactica. Again, I love this character because, again, he is very well matched to Kirk. They're more like than disalike. I think they're like the mirror of each other in a sense that Kirk is the good guy and Kor again, he's just doing his thing, man. He's like, this is the Klingon Empire. We come in, we take over. We're not messing around. Look, it's not personal, it's business. That's
yes. And you're thinking of Errand of Mercy.
Errand of Mercy. What did I say?
No, you did see you. I don't know what you said, but yeah, but we do, just to let everybody know, we do see him again. We see him in Deep Space Nine and Blood Oath, and I feel like he popped up in Enterprise, but I'm not 100% sure about that.
If he did, it's not his core.
If anybody knows,
pretty sure he wasn't in Enterprise. But,
anybody
he was. You're right. He was in Deep Space Nine. Actually, all the Klingons from TOS were in Deep.
Yeah,
Space.
they all came back, which was great.
Which is also the one played by William Campbell, which is Koloff and Kang, which is Michael and Sarah, who played that one. Who also plays always a good bad guy. Got the best, very deep voice. But Kor, I don't know. In this episode, I just love him. I love his banter with Kirk, and of course, Kirk, we have the right to kill each other, basically.
Yeah.
They're arguing to fight,
Yeah.
Yeah, it's like, yeah, that's a great line. It would have been glorious, like to see the battle, because he's like the quintessential pure Klingon. And he's like you said, it's like I said, to me, it was always it's not personal, it's just business. This is what we do,
John,
and you're in our way.
Every line from that episode.
Yeah.
You go, John.
Yeah, look at him go. Yeah, so yeah, John thinks the actor was dead, but I think you're right, John. I don't think he was even alive.
The only reason I'm saying this is because not Wikipedia. What am I saying? Memory Alpha is telling me it's so.
Oh yeah.
Yeah, Divergence, an episode called Divergence.
Okay. Well, Divergence.
Oh well, hey, Memory Alpha could be leading me astray, or maybe I'm not understanding.
No, I doubt it. They're usually accurate, so I'll go with it. So, but yeah, I mean, this is why I just like the character. I don't know what your opinions are, but
no. I am
love the banter with him and Kirk back and forth.
Yeah, I'm so pleased you included a Klingon. I had considered a couple Klingons to put on my list, and then I, for whatever reason, didn't include them. Yes, the Klingons were fantastic.
You had Kang on your list,
huh?
You had Kang from Day of the Dove.
Did I have Kang? Let me go look.
Yeah, I think you did. And I was considering.
Oh my God, I did have Day of the Dove, Kang, Michael, and Sarah. Yes, I did.
Yeah, and that was a good choice too. I think as Klingons go, I think he's the one I like the best.
I didn't. I should have thought about who was best representative of the Klingon Empire. I mean, like who represented glory to the Empire Klingon the best. That's who I should have been thinking about. What I should have been thinking about when I chose my Klingon. My token Klingon for my list.
The token Klingon. It could have been the drunk guy from Trouble with Tribbles.
Could have been the drunk guy from Trouble with Tribbles. He was also good.
The Enterprise should be hauled away as garbage.
And that's when you hit him? No.
Oh, no. So you hit the Klingons when they insulted the Enterprise, not when they insulted me.
No, yeah.
It's a matter of pride. Anyway, all right. So Kor, I mean, any other last thoughts on Kor?
No, but Kor is a fantastic choice, and I'm glad you included him.
Yeah, his expressions are so good too. He has a very expressive face.
Yes, Kang was on Deep Space Nine,
and he just plays a really good bad guy. He was a good. Baltar was a total character you hated. Same kind of thing. He's good at that. So. All right, number 2. We're up to number 2.
Number 2, and
our good friend Harry Mudd.
There's our favorite.
Our good friend Harry Mudd. Yes, played by Roger Carmel. Just an excellent character. Of course, he was probably I think he was the only villain in the original series that got 2 episodes.
Which
was very unlike Star Trek, because Star Trek was so episodic. You didn't have any kind of work. That's
true. He got 2 episodes, and he got the animated series.
And he was also in the animated series, which I do not have a picture of him for that. But and then of course his character came back in Discovery for 2 episodes. But this is the Harry Mudd that we know and love, or Leo Walsh. Again, very brilliantly written, very
brilliantly played.
What's the word I'm looking for? He was not necessarily a pirate, but kind of that.
But he was a swindler. He was a smuggler.
He was a scoundrel.
He's a scoundrel. Kirk calls him a thief, a swindler, a con man, a liar, and a rogue. Yeah. But he was funny and entertaining, so we were all willing to look past it. I mean.
Yeah, I mean, Mudd's women, he was a bit more evil, I think. he was ready to let the Enterprise just sit there in orbit forever or whatever to get what he wanted. The whole dilithium crystal thing. But eventually he comes around. I think in the end he has a bit of a conscience because he does come around and kind of, once he's kind of caught and he's like, well, all right, yeah, I don't want Evie there to die because they thought she was out in the sandstorm. But so he's got a little bit of a moral code, but not much of one, very little.
Yeah. Yeah.
The Rainn Wilson version was much more evil.
Yeah, sure. I agree. And
I liked that version. It was one of the few things I enjoyed that
version, but this version is just iconic and classic.
It is iconic, yes.
And you could laugh at him, and you were okay laughing at him, even though you knew he'd probably kill you if if it didn't
that's
go
the thing. I think if push came to shove, he would always pick himself over.
Doc just described him as the Pirate of the Caribbean in Trek. You know what? He is very much the Captain Jack Sparrow.
A little bit of a Jack Sparrow character. That's a fair assessment.
Of Trek. Great simile or metaphor.
The one thing I did like they did in Discovery is they kind of gave the backstory of Stella and why he can't stand still.
Yeah, but then didn't he end up going off for her at the end? I don't remember.
He did. He obviously married her in the end.
They softened her quite a bit. They made her almost nice and pretty.
Well, and I was like, I guess remember Discovery was at least 10 years prior to this. So
that's
she got
true.
worse.
She would have been younger, yeah.
Maggie.
But she still should have had that edge, but because we don't see much of Stella. All we see is her one of her robots, and she just wakes up, yells at him.
Remember Disco, different universe.
Yeah, that's true too.
So yeah, both the episodes were good. They're excellent episodes. Fun episode, really in a lot of ways. The reaction of the crew in Mudd's Women whenever they were around was hysterical. Like they were all like a bunch of pablum, or not pablum. What's the word I'm looking for? The dogs. They're just like drooling.
Yeah. It's Kirk's reaction to him that is what is so entertaining, because even Kirk is like over it. He's just like,
well, because again, Kirk's only in love with one thing, and that's the Enterprise. So it's hard to get him to, although he sleeps with everything that moves.
Battle axe. Yes, Stella was a battle axe.
She was a battle axe. So, Stella dear, shut up. Harcourt. Have you been drinking?
Harcourt.
All right. So that's Harry. So now we're going to move on to honorable mentions. These should have been on maybe made the list.
And you guys place your guesses as to what number one is. But anyway,
no particular order. I think they'll probably figure out who number one is. All right, so this is one we both picked this one, and that's Samuel Cogley, attorney at law from Court Martial.
Columbo before Columbo was a thing.
Court Martial is actually one of my favorite episodes for some stupid reason, and I don't know why.
It's a great episode.
I just like the episode. It's not an action-packed episode. It's a courtroom drama.
Yes, it's a courtroom drama.
Essentially, but I love this character.
Kirk accidentally hit the jettison pod button. That's the whole episode right there. Did he hit the button?
Yeah. Well, I mean, he gives this great speech about justice and and the Constitution and the Magna Carta and the Mars declarations of whatever that he goes on and does this big speech, and it had like this To Kill a Mockingbird. What's the other Perry Mason?
Yeah, Perry Mason.
Did you order the code red?
yeah. Did you order? Yes. But he is a little bit Columbo about it. Like at moments you feel like he's not paying attention, moments where he's misdirecting. Right.
He's kind of that character where he's just sitting there, and basically says, "I'm just waiting for us to get through the whole preliminary crap so we can get down to the meat of the matter."
Yeah, so we can.
And then he played well.
They bring up witnesses, and he has no questions. Is this the one I'm thinking of? And he has no questions, and Kirk's starting to be like, "What are you doing, dude? Are you gonna?"
Yeah, because he realized the only witness of the whole thing is the computer.
And Janie.
And that's what the whole court martial became down to, was man versus computer. Which do you believe? And of course, we find out that the computer was messed with.
Was tampered with
by the only a few people on the whole ship could have done it. And of course, one of them just happened to be Finney.
And one of them happened to be Finney.
And then, ironically, of course, at the end, he ends up he ends up defending Finney at the end.
He does. Yes.
Yeah.
He does.
So anyway, that's our.
I'm glad you included him on the honorable mentions.
Yeah, no, I think I did. I always liked this character, and I liked the episode quite a bit. So next up is another one I picked, and this is
the Conscience of the King,
or aka Anton Caridian from Conscience of the King. Just a really well written character. Once we find out that he actually is Kodos.
Kodos, the
executioner,
butcher of whatever,
the executioner. Yeah. Kodos, the executioner. And yeah, of course, you guys know the story that he had to kill half a population of a colony planet to save them from starvation,
which is very fair.
To save the other half from starvation. Kirk, of course, was one of the few people that was there. What? He would have been, that's the thing. But Ship showed up early, so he didn't have to kill them. That was the rub, and but I like the way the character, and I like the way it's acted, because you could really feel he's not proud of what he did. He's not a Hitler in the sense that he did it because he thought it was just the right, you know what I'm saying? You could tell he struggled with that decision. It was a weird decision to make. I don't think anybody would have made it, but he struggles with it. That's why he in his hiding.
He does have a conscience. He does have a moral center.
Right. And you could see the pain in his eyes when he realized that his daughter was the one killing off the potential witnesses. And he said, "More blood on my hands," like, how have you done this to me? Kind of thing. And I just think it was brilliantly done. I love this. It's actually another episode that I quite like. I actually have that mask, by the way. I gotta finish.
Did you 3D print it, or
somebody else did it for me? But I did the finish work on it. But it's very accurate. It's really nice. It's actually the same one. The one I have is the same one James has in the case, at the tour. I just haven't gotten around to finishing and weathering mine. So anyway, so just another great episode, great actor. Thought it was worth mentioning on the list. Okay, next one we have is Vina.
Susan Oliver.
Again, part of the reason I think I liked her is because she played so many different parts.
She played a number of different,
because she played she played regular Vina, as we see here, that she played the green slave girl, and then
she was Orion.
Tried to do the wife on the ranch, and she was doing her best to try to sway Pike to come around and just be in the moment, but of course he was having none of it. But yeah, I think she was a great actress. Of course, she died far too young. And I would have liked to have seen more of her in Star Trek in general. She was an accomplished pilot too. She was very.
Yes, she was.
Flew around the world or something like that, didn't she? She had some accomplishment like that, I believe. Yeah. So anyway, that was another one of our in an honorable mention. There we were getting really. See, we always think we have a lot of time, and we don't.
Yeah,
okay, this is our last honorable mention, and that is Joanne Linville as Romulan Commander.
The Romulan Commander. I love her.
Her name we didn't hear. It was apparently very beautiful, and how rare. Because she told Spock.
Yeah, she whispers. She
whispered it to Spock, but yes, so he found whatever her name is. Now, again, I like this character. We have another strong female character, and even though she's a Romulan, and she's the head of this this three.
She's head of the ship. She's the captain of the ship.
Flotilla, if you want to call it that. And now she gets duped, unfortunately. But she plays and her granddaughter, I should say, looks exactly like her.
Exactly like her. Another fan film that shall not be named used her, and it was fabulous.
Yes, the other production that shall not be named.
The other fan film.
So that's why I picked her. I like the interaction with her and Spock.
Yes, and it was really well written. I mean, it was. Yeah, it's a great episode.
It's a good episode, and she plays it well. And yeah, she just was a good character. So, all right, we are up to number one.
They've guessed it.
You guys probably
They've
figured this
all
out already.
guessed it. I
I
believe
think you've
Bruce
already pretty
knew
much
it,
figured out who it is. Is of course Khan Noonien Singh.
and Bill Sotak and whoever else.
How do you not love Ricardo? I mean, again, the playoff between him and Kirk, the struggle between him and Kirk, and here's the funny thing with Space Seed. Prior to the Wrath of Khan, if you look up any of fan favorite top 10 episodes, top 20 episodes, prior to Wrath of Khan, Space Seed does not make any of those lists.
Wrath of Khan does
Wrath
it for
of Khan
Ricardo.
that put this episode on the map for most fans.
Yeah,
that,
absolutely.
To me, doesn't diminish his performance as Khan.
No.
I don't know if I could see anybody else playing. I'm not saying there couldn't be another actor if we hadn't seen Ricardo's performance, but of course, he's just, and he's, there's arguments. Is he really evil, or is he just wants?
Is he another Thanos? Yeah.
Is he just like, he's like, I want to be, accomplish things. I want to be able to do whatever. And so, and of course he does evil things. Now, of course, it's that whole thing with great intellect. He, his intellect was, but his morality didn't catch up. You know what I'm saying? They're supposed to be superior in every way, but certain areas they clearly weren't.
Yeah, some of their ethics are a little questionable.
Yeah.
His treatment of Marla, whatever her name was, Marla McGivers.
Lieutenant
was
it was McGivers.
It was quasi abusive, or at least quasi chauvinistic.
It was definitely well, she seemed to she was a submissive person, though. You could tell she already had this fantasy in her head. She was already drawing pictures of Eric the Red.
Right along with it, yep.
And it was funny because I think the Trex were talking about this. Originally, they were thinking of using somebody like Eric the Red or something as a character that it was supposed to be. It wasn't eugenics. It was the original screenplay was like somebody from Time that was famous or something. But when it was rewritten, the screenplay was teleplay was rewritten. Of course, it was this. But that it was eugenics wars and stuff like that. But yeah, his performance really, I think, more than the character itself, is what sells Khan. You know what I'm saying? He clearly goes more insane on Ceti Alpha 5.
Yes, after having been abandoned for however how many years.
Yeah. And that's the thing. That's the whole thing. What would have sprouted had the other planet not exploded and laid waste to the other one? What would they have accomplished? Of course, that's the whole ending of it. But yeah, I mean, I think he's probably one of the best characters as far as
he is
bigger
the
than
villain
life.
we love to hate.
Yeah, I never.
Jeff, totally convincing as a Sikh. Yeah, good point.
He's trying to say, "Oh, Doc's got a whole thing here." Problem is that great knowledge.
He's morally corrupt. Yeah, he is morally corrupt.
I think that's Spider-Man.
Well, no, go on. He rationalizes decisions, but he feels superior.
Right. His ego was as big as his intellect, and that's part of the problem.
Yes.
He clearly looked at other humans and looked at them as smaller, lesser, whatever.
Yeah. So in that, to him, justifies it.
Yeah. So, but I mean, as an adversary to Kirk, he was much on the same level. Clearly, Kirk had one advantage that Khan didn't have, and this is what we saw in Wrath of Khan. Kirk had figured him out, is that Kirk's ego wouldn't get in the way of doing what needed to be done as far as doing the right thing, whereas he could easily bait Khan in, which we did. Khan, I'm laughing at the superior intelligence. He should have never went into the Mutara Nebula chasing the Enterprise.
Probably not.
He had Genesis, just like his little toady there was telling him.
But he had to.
Genesis, you don't need him. He's like, no, I have to get him because I have to prove that I'm smarter than he is. So Well, I know that when they called him to do Space Seed, he went and rewatched his performances.
Yeah,
Khan,
when
so that he can,
Wrath of Khan, yeah.
yeah,
And
'cause
Bones Up.
he was doing. I
Bones Up.
think he was doing Fantasy Island right around the same time.
Yeah.
But they're so different. I mean, that shows you what a great actor. I mean, I didn't see Mr. Rourke in him.
No, I didn't.
At all.
No.
At all. So
Not in either performance.
Just a great actor. Well, he hadn't done Mr. Rourke original series yet.
Yeah, but that's what I'm saying is, some of those moments when he was trying to wheedle Marla MacGyver's, I wonder if that was a little Rourke-esque, but maybe not.
Well, he was clearly manipulating her, but I think he actually did. I think he did actually love her. Like, I don't think he was just taking.
Yes, because he was. I think he did. That's why he was going to get conned, because she died on the planet.
Yeah, that's one of the reasons they put them. That was one of the reasons they didn't put her in the movie, because they wanted him to have that fury, that motivation directed at Kirk, that he lost her.
Wife will do it every time.
Did love her. So,
dead wife is a very popular trope in movies. Don't know if you've noticed that.
So that is our.
Let me tell you what's going on.
Episode. I hope you guys, I think it figured
out.
Hope
you agree. Let me know if you want to know what my list was. Roy, Sunday is May the 4th. May the 4th be with all of you. Roy is having his son on Roy's Tie-Dye Sci-Fi Corner, and in one post he said they will be looking at Revenge of the Sith, and in another they said the Phantom Menace. So I'm not sure what they're doing.
I think they're doing Revenge of the Sith.
I think it's Revenge of the Sith, because that's the one that's the 20th anniversary.
The 20th, yeah.
Phil is preempted. Not Phil, is Bill McNulty is preempted tomorrow by Stony Brook Lacrosse, but Phil will be on at 4 p.m. for Captain Phil's Planet, and he will talk about the late author Barry Malzberg's, and play some music and hang out and have a good time. So that's all happening on WUSB Stony Brook.
Cool.
Oh, my picks. Do you want to know what they were?
Your picks were some of the same. So was it like you had some?
I'll fly through them. My picks were 10-1. Number 10, Kang, Vina, Cyrano, Roberta Lincoln, which was Terry Garr and Assignment Earth, Edith Keeler, Gary Mitchell. I chose William Wyndon, which we did Harry Mudd and Khan. My honorable mentions were Samuel Kugley, Miranda Jones, that's Diana Muldaur, Garth of Izar, Marta, because it was Yvonne Craig. I also had Barbara Luna, and I had Vic Tayback, Krakow in A Piece of the Action. And I also picked the oldest kid in Miri, who was played by Michael Pollard. I can't think of the kid's name. Those were my picks.
There you go. So it was a mix. It was a mix,
yeah.
So next week, I think, because it is the New Testament Star Wars Holiday Sunday.
It is Star Wars Holiday.
We'll do something Star Wars next week. Maybe a top 10 Star Wars something or other.
I think we're gonna have a very Star Wars month of May, which
I think pretty much all of May. May is just Star Wars month. So I don't know. We'll do something Star Wars. Something. Anybody who is in the area, my area, I will be in Manchester, New Hampshire on Saturday for a free comic book day at the Midnight Comics in Manchester with the 501st and Rebel Legion. So if you're come by. They have it's not just a comic, because they do like a whole vendor thing,
it's like a whole basement
event thing. It's pretty cool. So it's always fun. Good times. So anyway, on that note, we'll say good night. And as always, live long and prosper, and may the force be with you always. Good night.